Coffee Hour Trade Deadline Edition, live reaction edition. We'll share this link and give the people
Yeah, let me get the link up right now.
some time to get in here.
Yes, we are live right now. Oh, Tom, by the way, that game on Saturday, I didn't realize it was at 5. And I don't know if I'll be done working by then. So I'll just keep you in the loop on what's going on. We have an after hours job we have to get to on Saturday. So I should be good. I'll know more pretty shortly though. So just want to keep you updated on that.
Alrighty, well, here. All right, looks
Let's
like we are
see.
live. I see my big, beautiful bald head. I know that we are live. We'll share this link. We'll let the people know that we are live.
Copy. Let me post this link on my end. How was the vibe last night after the game?
It was a weird one, man. It was a weird game. I mean, it was you were there. You were in the arena too. Losing to like the last 8 guys on the Spurs on the Thunder's bench would have been catastrophic. Letting it get to clutch time was its own sort of catastrophe, and the team talked about it a little bit. They know they got to clean stuff up. So I don't think there's any illusions that they have that they played a really good game last night.
I thought it's one of those you play like a pickup basketball game and you play like a really good team and you win and you're all hyped. You're like, yeah, it's great. That was awesome. And then you play like a bunch of kids afterwards and you can't seem to make a basket. It kind of
Right.
felt like that. It's like a psychological you're like a psychological warfare with themselves all night last night.
Yeah, no, it was. I asked Steph after the game, like, because it looked like they were game planning to give up threes to certain guys,
Mhm.
and those guys were hitting threes, and he
Right.
confirmed that that's sort of what was happening, and gave them credit. But yeah,
They shot 40% from 3 last night.
on like almost 50
Yeah.
attempts,
Yeah.
it was
My
crazy.
my mom was tweaking out. I always wondered where I got my pacing from in the games when the games are close, and I get it from my mother. She just was
Cool,
pacing after the game.
love that.
She was like, "I'm
Um,
so annoyed right now." I'm like, "Mom, relax. They're up 10."
yeah, no, I mean, but it got dicey. It got a
It
little
did.
dicey there, and yeah, Keldon said that there was definitely some element of playing down to the competition. Um, oh, hey, the tweets hit the timeline. The people are showing up to
Jumping
the
in. Yeah.
stream. Hello, new
Here we go.
people. Hello,
Hiya.
hello.
Hiya. Hiya.
Welcome to the last half hour before the NBA trade deadline. Um, and let's just set the scene. The Spurs have a bunch of picks. They've got 7 firsts, which I don't think they're going to try to move on from. They've got 23 seconds, which I think they would be wise to try to flip some of those for something, especially if they can attach one or multiple to the expiring contracts of Jeremy Sochan, who seems like he's not long for the Spurs, and or Kelly Olynyk. So I put up my list for Spurs on SI with 8 different targets that the Spurs could go after at this deadline. Um,
Somebody just
I
said so they're trading Kawhi. What am I seeing this in the
dude,
comments?
I don't know about that. I know they traded Zubac, which is I are they blowing it up? Are they completely blowing it up, or are they just trying because they didn't get
Dude, they've been the
great.
winningest team in the past like month.
Yeah, but then, Harden wanted his
Yeah.
money,
Yeah.
and, it might be a fire sale. I still love John Collins, but, that move might make things difficult for the Spurs with the tax or get them slightly into it. They might have to make another move if they wanna do that. But, man, that would be interesting if the Clippers are blowing it up, blowing it up.
That would make no
Um,
sense, but whatever. Hey, to each his own, right? I'm
I
not
see some chatters in the chat. Hello, chatters.
Sohan getting
Uh,
waived with no deal fine. Um,
Jordan Schneider, yeah. If the Spurs can't find a deal for Jeremy Sochan, I saw some reporting yesterday from Spurs reporters that I enjoy and respect, and Don Harris, Jeff McDonald, some other people, basically saying that you know Jeremy might be a candidate for a buyout, just given how things have gone, and if they can't move him in a deal at this deadline. Um, you know, we're not really sure. Um, you know, I that surprises me. But the writing is on the wall that it's sort of over here in San Antonio for Jeremy Sohan. Um, I suppose there's a chance that he stays on the roster, and they're like, okay, if you want to play your butt off for 5 minutes and go guard somebody and try to make yourself some money this summer, when we need like a little bit of but I don't really see that happening. So I guess if they can't get a deal done, my inclination, though, my feeling was always that they would be able to get something done, right?
well, it seems like they tried to do something this offseason as well, and so it seems like with the Jeremy not really getting much run this year, coming into the season with an injury, it's kinda added up to Spurs don't really have too many options to get for him at this point, and I've saw people say that they've nuked his value. I don't think that's the right way to look at it. I think the Spurs itself have once again, they've improved drastically over the past year, and this team is a fantastic basketball team, and if you're not part of what's going on, then there's just no playing time for you at the moment, and I don't think it's they intentionally nuked Jeremy's value. It's just the way it's worked out this season, and unfortunately for there's always gonna be a player or 2 on any roster that feels they should be playing or doesn't get playing, and the fans are like, "Hey, this guy should be getting run." There's only 5 guys that can play and only like a 10-man rotation, and really then it turns into an 8-man rotation in the playoffs. So you're kinda like, he was out of the rotation, and this is just what it is. It's kinda you what are how do they up his trade value over the past month? What
So
is
I think for me, since it's gotten to this point, like we've talked a lot about how Jeremy Sohan got to this point. I think that because they're at this point, um, Sohan makes the most sense, has the most utility at the trade deadline in his expiring contract and restricted free agency rights if a team wants to bring him back. Like somebody asked me before, they were like, yeah, but would that team? It was the Bulls, actually. Would the Bulls be interested in Jeremy Sohan and Kelly Olynyk? And it was like, as players, I mean, Sohan maybe in past this year, but probably not as players. But for
Malachi Branham just
matching
got traded again. Poor guy.
Branham,
Yeah, just got traded again, but for
all
Tyus
that.
Jones.
But you know, their primary utility at this trade deadline is to match salary in a deal where there's attaching, you know, some draft picks to pick parentheses S. And like I think I expect them to be stingy with their firsts. We saw
As they
reporting
should.
from Jeff McDonald yesterday that Trey Murphy the third, Michael Porter Jr. Spurs looked into it, but we're like, oh, that's expensive.
You
Which
think?
I treat anything Jeff reports as gospel, and that pretty much confirms what I was writing as the likely state of play for things. They just don't want to take on long-term contracts. They don't want to give up the flexibility of first-round picks.
Look, when you
Um,
see what the Hawks have done this trade deadline, Hawks aren't gonna be great. Hawks aren't gonna be that great the back of the season, so why are they gonna get rid of a Hawks pick they had this year? That doesn't make sense. So, like, I do get why they're stingy on those first round picks, and I get why you would be like, you know what? There's another opportunity to add another elite talent this offseason that we could do, or we could and keep him at a rookie deal for 5 years or 4 years, whatever it is, and then instead of bringing in a Trey Murphy or a Michael Porter Jr. who are going to cost a shit ton of money over the next few years and kind of hamper you down. So, yeah, I do think there's a thousand ways to look at it. There's a thousand ways to go. That's the difficult part, right? There's no
I
really easy option here.
I think if Trey Murphy the third was on Michael Porter Jr.'s contract, they might do it. They might think about it. But I,
Who would you
you
rather
know,
have between the two?
I would rather have like in a vacuum. I'd rather have Trey Murphy the third.
Mhm.
But Michael Porter Jr.'s contract. By the way, Guppy joining the stream, my
Yep.
editor here.
I'm glad he's feeling
Um,
better.
Dottie's hanging out also.
Yep.
But you know, I think that Trey Murphy the third's contract that goes another 3 years, right? I just can't see the Spurs committing to that when you've got extensions on deck for uh, De'Aaron Fox and Victor Wembanyama, and then Castle, and then Harper.
And
Um,
inevitably another first round pick that you're going to get this year. That's probably going to be a halfway decent first round pick the way it's going.
right. So um, I just I never saw the Spurs making a big move at this trade deadline. But what I've been spending the last 72 hours or so really thinking long and hard about, that's right, Guppy, is moves that the Spurs can make on the margins, send out Jeremy Sochan and or Kelly Olynyk for, attach one or multiple second round picks and try to get uh, a player who you can trust, either a big wing or a center, who you can trust if you need the depth in the playoffs. I put my ranking of those targets up on Spurs on SI. Some really interesting guys. I think my top tier though, um, you know, because because next year is the last year before Victor Wembanyama's extension would kick in. Um, that's the year. Like if there's a contract that's got one more year left on it, essentially becomes an expiring next year. Those are guys that I'm interested in, right? And so, um, in terms of young guys who fit the profile of player that the Spurs should be looking for and fit that contract, um, give me Jalen Smith from the Bulls.
Yep.
Give me Sadiq Bey from the Pelicans. Give me Santi Aldama from the Memphis Grizzlies.
Look, if Santi Aldama comes to the Spurs and doesn't replicate every time he plays the Spurs against them, I would be very livid.
The trolley problem always runs over the Spurs.
He's part of
Always.
he's on the list. He's one of the
Every
list guys.
single time he does that. For all of those guys, um, I think that it would probably cost multiple second round picks.
Mhm.
And those teams might have more incentive to keep those guys until next trade deadline and see if they can build up their value as a trade asset between now and then.
How many more picks can the Memphis Grizzlies really add? Like come on.
I mean, look
That's the
at
type
look
of
at where
greed
the
they talk
Spurs
about in the
are
Bible.
now. Look at where the Spurs are now. Think about how they got
That's
here,
fair. That's
right?
fair.
You can never have enough. It's like
Never.
James Harden can never have enough money, right? Like,
He needs that
and
contract
go
extension.
go get your bag, generational bag getter. But like basketball teams have to be the same way
Mhm.
about acquiring draft capital. Second round picks are, you know, can be valuable. You can find a good player in the second round if you're a team that drafts well, but like it's the primary utility is trade value, and doing deals like this with 15 minutes until the NBA trade deadline. So
Oh, Nick
um,
Richards got traded. We were laughing about that one. The
he did
Jamoshi
get
Marinette.
traded. There was some talk of the Spurs. I think it was Michael Scotto, Hoops Hype, reported that the Spurs and Suns had talked about Nick Richards for Jeremy Sohan in a swap. Um, and then, you know, basically the Suns are trying to get under the tax, and that would have raised their tax bill. So that didn't make sense for them. Um, Let's see. Let's check in
It's
with the
it
chatters.
it seems like this whole the CBA is really making teams move players around, and I think that's just a part of the issue, not issue, just part of what's going on as well in the landscape of the NBA is that CBA is really hanging over teams' head, and they want to get under that luxury tax, they want to get under that first apron, they want to get under those things, so they allow themselves to be able to do what they want to do in the offseason. Because if you're above those aprons, you're kind of hands tied behind your back, and a lot of these teams that are getting rid of these players are teams that are probably in a rebuilding time, in a rebuilding phase, kind of in this the Grizzlies are a good example where you really don't know which direction they want to go. Okay, they get rid of Desmond Bain, they got rid of JJJ. I'm surprised Ja Morant is still on the roster, with that. So it just kind of turns into these teams that
Yeah.
are trying to get under there so they have the ability to rebuild a roster. And I'm just glad the Spurs rebuilt the roster for this first, second, third, 10th apron started coming around. They can kind of maneuver their way around and make it work.
I think Ja is interesting because, like, I think they'd like to trade him and blow it up. I think that trading Triple J first, you maintain some, leverage. Because if you trade Ja first and everybody knows you're blowing it up, then how many picks are you
Right.
getting for Triple J?
Right.
Right. So you trade Triple J first, and then it's like, oh, okay. But Ja was the guy who was dragging down the value anyway. So, um, yeah, uh, Rachel in the chat, I agree with you. Negative asset at this point. You know, the Timberwolves could use an upgrade at point guard, but like it's just he's a high volatility player, right? And
Wow, Ja and Anthony Edwards would be kind of crazy though.
it would be fun. It would be kind of dope.
Be kind of crazy.
When they were loading up, for Giannis, I thought they kind of made a little bit of sense as a potential destination for Ja. Um, but I mean, we've seen some big moves at
Yeah,
this
we have.
NBA trade deadline. No
Shout out to
Giannis,
the Wizards. The Wizards want to win basketball games. Shout out to them.
they
Not
do.
this year, next year.
Right, right. And if AD can stay healthy, if he can stay healthy, man. But
Him and
like
Sar are next to each other be good. Good little
fun,
1-2 punch.
they've built a fun roster. If it's theoretical, and if Kristaps Porzingis can be on the court, really interesting in Golden State. Um, and all of these, like there's been so many deals this deadline with guys who are all stars, former all stars. Um, James Harden going to the East, and the Clippers now blowing it up after they won 16 of 20 games, like crazy.
Where do you think this leaves the Cleveland Cavaliers?
I mean,
Do you think they got better?
I think they got better. I think they were like the only second apron team, and I think they've maybe ducked
Right.
under the second apron. Um, and like you know, it's a weird it's a move that nobody like I don't know anybody who was talking about. Oh, I think James Harden would be a good deadline steal for the Cavs. I didn't have that, but
Nope.
he's a player that can kind of make sense. I like his fit with Donovan Mitchell, who has been playing on ball a lot more, but could probably play on ball a little less. So it's an
I mean, he
interesting.
he did play a two. He has played the two before, so I mean, I
Yeah.
don't see too much of an
Um,
issue.
I see two clutch Corey in the chat. We just need a fringe move. We've got two guys getting zero play time. Yes, absolutely. And those
Yeah.
two guys, um, Jeremy Sohan became an expiring contract trade chip for this team, but Kelly Olynyk was acquired as one in a
Mhm.
deal that would resemble any sort of consolidation deal that Kelly Olynyk is used in at this deadline. Because that was, I believe it was Branham and Blake Wesley,
Right.
and a second for a second and Olynyk, and doing that, the Spurs took back a lot more salary than they sent out, which was, on an expiring contract heading into the next year. It was always sort of seen as like, oh, Kelly Olynyk could be packaged with whatever
Right.
to match salaries in a deal. Like that's the Spurs loading up for, having that option, right?
Let me ask, are
They've
you gonna
got
be
11
disappointed if
minutes to
they
use
don't?
that option.
Let
I'll
me
be a little I'll be a little disappointed if they don't make a move. You know, it's such a this is such a kind of tense 10 minutes for me because it's like this whole time I have felt like if they do a move, it's going to be something small in like the last half hour before the
Oh,
buzzer. And
so
we're
you've been calling your
here.
shot. You calling your
We're
shot.
here, so you know, I think it's going to happen here, but
Oh,
also we're
you're
running out of time. And
we got
like,
10 minutes? Yeah, we got 10 minutes.
I've been watching people on the internet be like, Brian Wright's playing Candy Crush, blah blah blah. He's not gonna make a move. And
Yeah, you knew what you were doing posting that last night, by the way.
I just wanted the people to know that Brian Wright has a cell phone, man.
How long were you staring at Brian Wright till he paused on?
I looked over and he was there. He was there texting away. He wasn't
You're
on it
like
the whole time. He
you're like,
watched some of that game.
I'm gonna keep staring at him till he pulls out that phone. I'm gonna pull out my phone to
Um,
match him.
no. But you know, I thought it was interesting. Um, yeah, I think if the Spurs can't get anything of value for Jeremy Sohan and or Kelly Olynyk, who are not in the rotation, who are basically don't I don't see a long term future for them with this team beyond this summer. You're slated to lose them for nothing. If you can attach them to one or several of those many second round picks that you have and get a player that you could use as a depth piece in a potential playoff run, I think that would be very valuable. I think that's the sort of the move that the Spurs would be looking for at this juncture.
Ooh, let me bring up a scenario here, Tom.
Sure.
Keldon Johnson ended his contract, right? He's up the contract here. So question would be, do you think that this team with looking at the future, Keldon is only what, 26, clearly getting into the prime of his career, figuring out what works for him for this team, finding his spot, finding his groove, getting great. I mean, he was fantastic last night as well. But should win the sixth man of the year this year, if you want my honest opinion. He's been so great. That plays into it. That's why I'm almost like the Spurs have a major bench piece that they cannot let leave this summer and will probably get paid. He's gonna be what, make it 20 mil this year.
Around there.
So to sit there and say that the Spurs are probably understanding that they need to prepare that for themselves as well. And if it's losing Jeremy and Kelly to keep Keldon, I'm doing that every single time. You know, like that's where they're going to use the money. And so just a scenario in my head where I'm like, that's the one thing I'm thinking, like knowing that they have the Atlanta pick and it could come to fruition with something really nice. Okay, add another good young piece. We see how those guys fit in kind of seamlessly with what this team is doing. Dylan Harper's fitting in. Carter Bryant looked great last night. I think we're not even talking about that. Carter Bryant looked fantastic. That shot looked unbelievable last night.
Yep.
Multiple times there was no hesitation. I kept looking at my mom, and be like, "Yo, this is why Jeremy Sohan is expendable because of this. This is exactly why." So I just think the Spurs are looking more long term and saying if these guys walk for free, Harrison Barnes is also up his contract this year. So there's a lot of money going off the books this offseason. A lot of big time contracts that are going to be opening up, and the Spurs have to renegotiate with Keldon, which I'm 99.999% sure they're going to do. They're not going to let Keldon walk.
Yeah.
That's just, you got to look at it from, yes, short term. I want to bring something in, but if their thought process is, hey, we got to pay Keldon this offseason, we got to pay, De'Aaron Fox numbers go up this offseason. He's going to get the max goes into play this offseason. Leslie Derek Devin Vassell's contract goes down this offseason, where that's a depleting every year. So they know what they're doing. I'm not too concerned about what's happening with this offseason or with the money because I trust. I honestly kind of trust that Wimby takes a pay cut. If you want my weird inkling
No way.
suspicion about it, I have a weird inkling suspicion. Dude, Jalen Brunson took a fat pay cut. All these people are taking pay cuts with the CBA, knowing that it's going to affect their chance of winning. That's a real thing. That's a real thing.
I think that the Spurs thankfully have built enough flexibility to you know
Yeah,
be
and Champagne needs a raise too. Like there are people that are going to get
yeah.
paid this offseason. And the
Well,
Spurs are figuring out
so
what
Champagne's
works.
got one more year left, and
Right.
I think Keldon also has one more year left.
Is
Keldon's
Keldon
gonna
one
go
more
and
year?
Keldon's got one more year. He's going into a
Okay.
contract year. He's not expiring. So, and I think it's important to note, right, that like if this season had gone differently for these two players, we
Oh,
could be
way
talking
different.
about Keldon
Yeah.
Johnson on the trading block and Jeremy Sochan as a rotation piece,
Right.
right? Um,
But that's the fine lines this game. That's like I think what I had the conversation. Anybody in the NBA is good enough to play, right? It's if you take your minutes and use them wisely. And we saw what Keldon was before this season, where people were quite. Keldon was a lot of people's first guy to get traded with that contract over the past 2 years. I mean, you can look at anything online discourse. Everyone's like, Keldon needs to leave. Everyone's like, no, we need Keldon this season. Keldon is the key, is the guy. So it's just crazy how fast the environment can change for players just like it is for fans. Like fans can change their opinions very quickly too, just on based off what's happening. And I'm sure that's happened with the Spurs back office too. Like you can look at Kellen last year, it's like, oh no, we can find something that works better. And you're like, no, this works. He found his spot. This works. So that's just it just all adds up. It all adds up. If they need to make more and they have Harrison Barnes off the books this year. He's $18 million a year guy. Kelly Olynyk's $13 million a year. Jeremy Sochan's about $5 million. So there's numbers coming off the books. I'm just curious to see what they do with it. They think they have a big splash this offseason. If it's like, hey, let's see what we look like in the playoffs. Let's not go to let's not tie our hands behind our back before our first big playoff run and then really have no leverage over the next 2 to 3 years. Let's see what they got. Let's throw them in the fire. Let's throw these young guys in the fire and see what they have. And then we can address in the offseason if they need one more shooter or they need one more big or they need one more ball handler. Or they need, and that's I think that's just kind of the way I would like to go about it. Especially they're the 2 seed in the West. If they're the 8 seed in the West, I get it. Try to make a move. They're the 2 seed and they're playing decent basketball at the moment. It's not great. It was great at the end of the season. They'll find their rhythm. I think they'll get back in the groove of things. And that's just I think that's basketball. But yeah, I think there's kind of a you just kind of want to see how it plays out, right? These guys are winning together. So 32, 33 and 16, 2 games up on third place, 4 games up on fourth place. It's like all-star break is here. I don't know. I just think that it makes sense to stand pat, see how this team performs in the offseason or on the playoffs. If they make it, we'll see. We don't know what the future holds. I mean, I'm not going to say they're in the playoffs yet because they're not in the playoffs yet. Until April comes around, I'll tell you that's what it is. I'm just being superstitious at this point, but you get what I'm getting at. They just want to kind of see a run. I want to see a run with this team. They had to learn. They had to learn to grow. They're learning to grow on the fly. We talked about this on the episode the other day where I'm glad they're having these growing pains now with the second seed and trying to figure out how to keep up with it. Then a seed, try to fight, get back in the play in. We've been there before. This Keldon's been there before. Devin's been there before. They haven't been in the 2 seed where they're trying to win games.
all right. We are 2 minutes and change.
Mm.
2 minutes to
Tom,
the
I got
NBA
bad
trade
news. I
deadline.
don't think we're gonna get a Tommy P reaction here.
I I think we might not, and if we do, it'll be short because
We gotta go.
we're gonna have to bounce right around this deadline here to go talk to Brandon James, Spurs VP of Strategic Growth. Really, really interesting guy. Awesome conversation last year when we had him on the show talk about Austin Spurs Week, and we'll absolutely be asking him some trade deadline questions. Um, if the Spurs don't make a move here, there could be something where you know, like there's reporting Jeremy Sohan may be bought out, and then the Spurs may be looking for an upgrade on the buyout market. So
Chris
not the end of
Milton.
opportunities to upgrade the roster for the Spurs if
Chris
nothing
Milton
gets
is gonna
done.
get bought out, so there's an opportunity there.
I mean, we're going to see a flurry of moves after this deadline as well on
and and
roster
and
and
and,
cap sheets.
and
So
buying out Jeremy allows a roster spot to open. So there's just a lot of ways to go about it. And if the thought process is to buy out Jeremy and someone will get him off the waiver wire or someone will give him a contract, and I think if it works best for both parties, then I'm all about it. I want the best for Jeremy. I also want the best for the Spurs. Jeremy has done nothing but be a professional and got put in crazy situations his whole career for the Spurs. Um, whether that I agree with some things that the Spurs did with him or not, I think that's besides the point. He did everything that was asked for him. Everything. He's a stand-up person in the community. I was shout at him for sending stuff to my boy Eddie when he didn't need to do that. So there, I have no ill will towards Jeremy. I just wish that this whole situation can be resolved for all parties involved. He just doesn't look happy on the bench, and I feel bad for him.
Yeah, he looked a little out of it last night, which
Yeah,
is tough to see.
and he showed up like
Um,
midway through the first quarter, like which you don't really see a lot. Like so, it just doesn't. You just feel bad for the guy, man. And I just understand that. Hey, we're a winning team now, and sometimes pieces don't fit. Unfortunately,
yeah, no, it's if this is the end for Jeremy Sohan in San Antonio, that is a tough end indeed. Um, we are gonna have to get out of here in just a minute. I'll sit for a second after the buzzer, make sure there's nothing crazy coming in,
nothing leaking in.
uh, but not seeing anything right now. So uh, as of right this moment, we have crossed 2 p.m. and no moves yet for the San Antonio Spurs. So we will update this. Keep an eye on Silver and Black Coffee Hour. Keep an eye on Spurs on SI. Zach, any final words for the people?
Nah, nah. Just tune into more. We got so much stuff coming up in the next month. Good luck,
We'll
people.
have a
Keeping
lot to
up.
talk about. So see you guys later. Peace out. Thank you.